The Minecraft movie really hit home with a lot of fans of the game. Still, the production isn't perfect. It's got its fair share of continuity mistakes, CGI slip-ups, plot holes, and even a few things that just don't match the game at all.
I am Steve.
So, did you catch all the mistakes hidden in the live-action adaptation of Minecraft?
What the hell?
We already know the movie is packed with fun Easter eggs for fans of the game. But sometimes, a reference meant to please the audience just ends up making zero sense. That's exactly what happens in the final scene, where two people are shown playing Minecraft on an arcade machine in Garrett's game store. Sure, it's awesome to see the actual game show up in the movie, but in real life, playing Minecraft on an arcade machine just isn't a thing. You can play it on pretty much every other gaming device, computers, consoles, phones, tablets, but never on an arcade machine. It would be incredibly hard to adapt Minecraft to work on a machine like that for a bunch of reasons. First, arcade cabinets would need to be powerful enough to run the game, which isn't exactly lightweight. But then there's the issue of simplifying the controls to fit just a few buttons. And it gets even weirder when you realize they're playing in local multiplayer mode. Two people using just one joystick and a couple of buttons each? Minecraft requires two separate sticks, one to move the character and one to move the camera. So unless they found a way to cram both functions into a single button, which would totally wreck the gameplay, that setup makes no sense. Weird, right? And that's just the first of 10 mistakes you didn't catch in the Minecraft movie. So get comfy, you're watching another Cinewave. One of the biggest complaints since the very first trailer was the movie's choice to mix live actors with CGI backgrounds and characters, instead of just going full animation. Some viewers thought the blend of live action and animation looked awkward, while others warmed up to the idea and actually liked how it turned out. Even though the visuals ended up winning over a lot of people after the release, those early skeptics were right about one thing: the CGI isn't flawless. When the main characters arrive in the overworld, you can clearly see traces of the green screen in Natalie's hair. Some fans argue it's actually the glow from the blue portal behind her, but if you look closely, the green in her hair is a totally different shade than the blue energy from the portal. It's way more likely that the VFX team just didn't clean up the green screen edges properly in that shot. Not that this ruins the movie or anything. Honestly, who's gonna have their experience ruined by a tiny little mistake like that? Now let's talk about a huge plot hole involving Chungus, the piglin general sent by Malosha to hunt down Steve and his friends. He's one of the funniest characters in the whole movie, which is kind of ironic considering he's also a ruthless warlord. And that would all be fine if it didn't turn out he used to be Steve's old pal. Yep, apparently the two used to go on adventures together. Chungus even knows Steve's chicken shop jingle by heart, which means he had visited the village at some point. But that doesn't add up. Steve had never been to the Nether before the events of the movie, and when he finally gets there, he's immediately captured by Malosha. So how on earth did he already know Chungus? Are we supposed to believe the general just strolled up to the overworld, made best friends with Steve, and then went back to the Nether? All while having to constantly take Nether fungus to avoid turning into a zombie outside his home dimension? And let's not forget, the Nether seems to be running low on fungus anyway. Chungus' army literally had to split a tiny batch between themselves before heading out to chase Steve. Here's another confusing moment about Steve's journey, the part where he uses Elras to escape from the piglin army with Henry and Garrett. Why is that a problem? Well, technically speaking, he should have never had access to Elras in the first place. In the Minecraft game, you can only get them in the End, a secret dimension guarded by the final boss, the Ender Dragon. You could say that Movie Steve already beat the game and made it to the end, but that's pretty unlikely, and here's why. To activate the portal that leads to the End, you need to craft Eyes of Ender. And to make those, you need to combine Ender Pearls with Blaze Powder, and Blaze Powder can only be found in the Nether. And guess what? Like we said earlier, Steve only visited the Nether once, and didn't leave until the rest of the main cast arrived in the Minecraft universe. So there's no way he had enough time to go through the whole process to get those wings, especially since the Elras were just chilling in a chest in an overworld village. So how exactly did he get them? And hey, if you want to see Steve and the gang head into the End in a sequel, drop a #end in the comments below. One thing the movie never explains is whether, like in the games, the characters have an inventory where they can store hundreds of blocks and different items. It seems like they do because Steve is seen carrying a ton of blocks, way more than he could ever fit in his pockets, and even pulls out a water bucket out of nowhere. That raises a lot of questions. From Steve's point of view, does he see an inventory interface just like in the game, or does he just somehow know what's stored in there? And do the other characters also have their own inventories? That would make sense, since every player in Minecraft can store items the same way as Steve. So why didn't anyone ever mention it in the entire movie? Maybe the filmmakers skipped over it to avoid confusing non-gamers or slowing down the plot. Still, it creates a pretty funny plot hole. If Henry had just stored the Orb of Dominance in his inventory, the artifact would have never been stolen by Malosha. Steve should have known better. He could have warned Henry about the danger of walking around with a powerful relic in his coat and told him to store it in his inventory. That would have been the perfect excuse to explain how that game mechanic works in the movie version of the world. The scene where Steve takes the main characters to a village is really fun, especially since we get to see a bunch of different types of villagers pulled straight from the game. But the production went a little overboard and added one villager who definitely shouldn't be there. In the Minecraft universe, different types of villagers appear depending on the biome. There are forest villages, desert villages, and even snowy villages where the villagers wear white coats. And it's one of those snow biome villagers we see randomly standing in the crowd, far from where he should be. It makes zero sense for him to live in a village from such a completely different environment. The only logical explanation would be that he's from a snowy biome and just came to this other village for trading, or maybe to visit a relative. But let's be real, do you really think the filmmakers thought that far ahead? Or did they just drop him in the scene without thinking much about it, just to fill out the background? The second option seems way more likely, especially since, in the game, villagers don't really travel to other biomes at all. Another pretty fun scene is when Steve explains to Henry and Garrett how to craft items using a crafting table. But that's also where the movie drops the ball again with another plot hole. In the game, the crafting table isn't the only way to make items. You can also craft basic stuff using your inventory interface, though it's way more limited. For example, you can use it to make a crafting table itself. But in the movie, they never mention that characters can do that. There's no talk about crafting from the inventory or having a simpler way to make items. So, how did Steve make his very first crafting table in the first place? Are we supposed to believe he just couldn't build anything until he found one sitting in a village? But then the villagers would have had to make the first one too, right? Man, the more you think about this, the less sense it makes. Garrett is without a doubt one of the characters who shows up in the funniest scenes in the whole movie, not just because of his personality, but also because he gets absolutely wrecked so many times. But that leads us to a weird issue that might be another plot hole. How did Garrett survive all that without a scratch? He got blown up by a creeper, beaten up by General Chungus, hit by a bunch of traps, one of which literally launched him across the screen, and even got knocked around by a baby zombie. Any normal human would have broken several bones or worse after all that, and we never saw him drink a healing potion or eat a golden apple. So we're left with just two possibilities. Either Garrett is secretly immortal, or that's just another plot hole the movie never bothered to explain. And hey, if you're enjoying our videos, that can only mean one thing. You should definitely hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on our awesome content. Say what you want about Malosha, but she's a villain that fits right into the Minecraft universe. A sorceress who hates creativity and only cares about gold, in a movie that celebrates creativity more than anything else. Still, there's something about her backstory that's kinda hard to ignore. Apparently, she used to be a regular piglin who dreamed of being a dancer, until she got booed off the stage during another dance contest. That moment made her turn against all forms of creativity. But if she was just a regular piglin who had to work for gold like everyone else, how did she end up becoming a powerful sorceress and leader of the piglins? That part really doesn't add up, unless they plan to explain it in the Minecraft sequel that's already in development. Then again, let's be honest, probably best not to hold our breath on that one. It's not just the fact that Steve has elytras that make up for a huge plot hole, it's also how they work in the movie that doesn't line up with the game. In Minecraft, elytras are gliders. They don't let you fly straight up, and they lose altitude pretty fast. But in the movie, it's unclear whether they're just gliding or actually flying, because when Henry activates his elytra, he gains a ton of altitude, and both he and Garrett manage to fly for a long time without needing fireworks to boost, which Henry does use at one point, but only to go ridiculously fast, not because he needed help staying in the air. So yeah, maybe the elytras in the movie are still technically gliders, but they're definitely way more powerful than in the game. Honestly, that's kinda cool. The video's just about over, but if you're in the mood for more fun, go ahead and click one of the two videos we left on your screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time!